We're here today to announce an exciting and innovative idea, an idea that we hope will be a sustainable model for addressing some aspects of our region's housing crisis. I have introduced legislation calling for a regional workforce housing initiative. This initiative aims to ensure that our essential workers, like nurses, teachers, electricians, first responders, and so many others, can afford to live close to the communities that they serve. When workers are displaced, when they're forced to live far from their jobs due to skyrocketing housing costs, our whole society suffers. We see lower quality services, longer commute times, more emissions that are harming our climate, more stress, families spending more time apart. This issue affects all of us. The model behind the Workforce Housing Initiative is straightforward but powerful. King County has approximately $9 billion in unused debt capacity. That means our government could theoretically issue $9 billion more of bonds or borrow $9 billion more without compromising our financial health, assuming we can find the revenue to service the interest on that debt and pay down the principal as well. So my motion asks King County to create a plan for issuing at least $1 billion of bonds and using those resources to construct thousands of units of workforce housing. These units would be publicly owned and rent restricted to ensure long-term affordability, and the rental income generated from these homes, the rent that the tenants pay, would be used to pay down the loan. Over time, this model becomes self-sustaining, making it a smart and responsible way to increase our housing supply without placing new regressive tax burdens on the public. My motion directs King County to use our financial tools creatively. It could potentially put a dent on the housing crisis by addressing a key problem, the mismatch between where people work and where they can afford to live. In addition to addressing the housing crisis, this initiative would also serve as an economic development tool. The construction of thousands of units of housing could create numerous good union jobs, provide new tax revenues, stimulate local businesses, and drive economic growth across King County. And the units would be built to high environmental standards, upholding our commitment to a clean energy future. This model is about more than just housing. It's about building a county where workers, families, and communities can thrive. We know that when people can live close to where they work, we reduce traffic, boost productivity, strengthen our economy, and create more sustainable neighborhoods. I want to take a moment to thank our big, broad, beautiful coalition that you see here next to me, from labor unions to business leaders, from government agencies to housing advocates to private developers. Your dedication and support makes this initiative possible. And a special thank you to Civic Ventures for helping to elevate this idea. With that, I'm honored to introduce my colleague and fellow affordable housing champion, Councilmember Rod Dembowski.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Girmay. It's a privilege to join you today, and congratulations on bringing forward this excellent proposal. I'm really proud to be a prime co-sponsor of it with you. My name is Rod Dembowski. I chair the King County Council's Transportation, Economy, and Environment Committee. I represent the 1st District on the County Council. That's North Seattle and the communities of Shoreline, Lake Forest Park, Kenmore, Bothell, and North Kirkland. It wraps around the north end of the lake. And I do a lot of work, of course, like Councilmember Zahilay in the district. Yesterday, I received a pretty sad email from the executive director of a group called the Hunger Intervention Program, HIP. HIP works in North Seattle to deliver meals largely to children who are in school. And they work closely with the schools. And the director of HIP received an email from one elementary school, just one in my district, informing him that they had 50 children in one elementary school that they were reporting under the McKinney-Vento Act as unstably housed. One elementary school, 50 children, wow, with parents and guardians living in RVs, cars, motels, camps, or couch surfing.
Wow.
In Seattle, the last stats I saw, we had over 3,500 kids similarly situated in the Seattle School District. In the Shoreline School District, 150. In the North Shore School District, 150 kids. What are perceived as relatively wealthy communities are suffering from the scourge of unstable housing. These kids' parents are working, but they cannot afford to rent a place, let alone buy a place. That's the moral imperative that we have as a powerful regional government to step in and take action and act boldly. And that is what this proposal is about, bringing forward $1 billion at least of our financial capacity at King County that we have worked hard as responsible stewards of the fiscal purse, of the public purse, to protect. We can borrow money, and we have a great credit rating at better rates than anybody else, and we can back the borrowing and debt of private sector issuers to get those rates down. What we're seeing right now in the affordable housing space and the housing space generally is a freezing of the market. Okay, projects have come to a standstill because next level financing isn't coming forward. Permit applications have shrunk to zero at a time when we know they should be going up to build more housing. Why is that? The costs are too high, and a major driver of those costs is the financing, all right? There's lots of things we got to do to work around the system, but the financing is key, and you're going to hear more about that. This program puts a target right on that problem and says, we're going to use the power of King County government to solve it. We've done it before. We know it can succeed. You're going to hear next from Dan Watson, who's been, gosh, Dan, a long time with the King County Housing Authority. I think I've known you 30 years. We've worked with them in a similar program to back their debt. They issue debt to acquire units, keep them affordable, take the rents, and pay it off. And here is the beauty of this. It doesn't cost the King County taxpayer a nickel, okay? One of the challenges with programs sometimes is you go to voters and seek a tax increase for good work. Think of the Seattle Housing Levy. We've got to be careful about raising the cost of housing to make more housing affordable. This program doesn't do that. This program uses the power of county government, our excellent credit rating, working in partnership with the private sector and the nonprofit sector to deliver more housing now. You know, a few years ago, I served on a regional affordable housing task force. We came together to identify the problems that we're facing. We know we need hundreds of thousands of new units to house our growing population. We have an incredibly strong economy, but that economy has priced people out of housing. Unless you're in the very wealthy, in the very top percent of the economic sphere, you can't buy a place in King County where the average home, the median home, is now approaching $1 million. $1 million. We've got to do better. And we are working, by the way, on the supply side, if you will, to get more money in people's pockets. At the county, Councilmember Zahilay led the effort. I was pleased to co-sponsor it with him to raise the minimum wage for the 250,000 people living in unincorporated King County to the top in the nation. Right? We're going to put more money in people's pockets. We've led on a lot of pro-labor policies, apprenticeship programs, job training programs to make sure folks can get into careers with a living wage. But with all of that work, the money still isn't enough when the housing costs are skyrocketing. So we're going to attack this problem on all fronts. We're going to work to reduce permitting time, which drives up costs. We're going to reduce barriers to building housing. We're going to increase zoning so we can build more of it. But we have got to come in partnership with the private sector and the nonprofit sector and deliver them the financial tools that we can do at the King County, really unique in the region, unique among governments, to knock down that barrier. That's what we're going to do. It's now my privilege and pleasure to introduce a friend of a long time, as I mentioned to you, Dan Watson, who has built and bought and protected more affordable housing in this region over his career than maybe anybody here. And he's going to tell you about how this works because he's done it. Please welcome Dan Watson.
Thank you, Councilmember Dembowski. In the face of overwhelming need for affordable workforce housing, where hundreds of thousands of households are cost burdened by market rents, the King County Housing Authority wholeheartedly endorses this new initiative, which is to deploy King County's unused bonding capacity to support and finance the development and acquisition of additional affordable workforce housing. The cost burdens that renters face in King County's housing market often limit their family's choice of where they can live, where their kids go to school, and whether they can save money to buy a home or for a college education. Now, King County Housing Authority's President CEO, Robin Walls, couldn't be here today because of a prior commitment, but I know that she strongly supports this initiative, not only because it's a great idea, but it's also a concept that's worked in the past. Over the last 25 years, the King County Housing Authority, which is a separate entity from King County, has used King County's bonding authority in the form of county guarantees that provided a AAA bond rating and enabled the issuance of over $300 million in housing revenue bonds that helped to develop approximately 1,500 units of affordable housing. Some examples of where King County's unused bonding capacity was used in concert with other financing would be the construction of the 308-unit Village at Overlake Station in Redmond, which was one of the county's first transit-oriented development projects that's developed in King County. We also used King County credit enhancement and their bonding capacity to acquire the 485-unit Ballinger Commons project apartment community in Shoreline. But this new workforce initiative stands to be far more robust, enabling King County to raise capital directly and to partner with a wide variety of affordable housing developers and financing partners that will leverage the development of their expertise and resources that I think will help to create innovative housing solutions. The Housing Authority looks forward to working with King County to develop and refine this initiative. Thank you.
Councilmember Girmay, Councilmember Dembowski, this is the kind of bold initiative for workforce housing that members of our union have been waiting years for. If you ask any of the 6,000 plus construction workers, middle class people that are a member of this union, what they need to thrive, they will say quality workforce housing. It is on everybody's mind. And this solution is extraordinary. One of the things that makes us love it, champion it, is that it supports workers, not just in needing a home to live in, but to be able to build these homes. Mm-hmm. We have the chance to support apprenticeship. And because of apprenticeship, these will be careers that are created building these units. And these will be units of the highest quality, homes that families can be proud of, that generations can grow up in our communities. We're excited because this is something that will put union workers to work. And there are a lot of people who need an opportunity right now. Construction is in a slump and people are suffering. Because of the unions that have joined us here today, I'd like to shout out my boss, Sean Bagsby, the head of our union, as well as Heather Kurtenbaugh from the Ironworkers and Andrea Ornelas from LiUNA 242. Because of the unions that are championing this project, we're going to have an opportunity to have a community workforce agreement. And that means being able to hire people who live in this housing. Hire people that are in the communities, the very zip codes that need these opportunities to build these homes. And last, I just want to say, because of our code of excellence, that these are going to be competitively priced and competitively built. And like I said, this is the moment that we've been waiting for years, and such a special opportunity.
I'm Lisa Nitza, principal at Nitza Stagen. We're a real estate investment, development, and management company that's been active in Seattle neighborhoods for the past 40 years. Our current focus is on providing attainably priced workforce housing in the city, and towards that end, we currently have multifamily projects totaling approximately 1,500 rent-restricted apartments slated or in construction, slated for or in construction in Seattle. I'm here today in support of our shared goal of building and sustaining thriving communities in King County. And it's a fact that, as we've heard from everybody before me, it's a fact that in order to thrive, communities must have sufficient housing affordable for the full range of workers serving those communities and their families. We're facing a crisis in King County. Our workers are no longer able to find affordable housing in the neighborhoods where they want to live. At the same time, multifamily apartment developers like us facing significant market headwinds in sourcing construction debt and equity are putting new rent-restricted housing projects on hold just when they're most needed. This $1 billion regional workforce housing initiative creates an opportunity for King County to use the full range of tools at its disposal now to enable these projects to move forward. King County has a unique opportunity to harness its excess debt capacity to partner with housing agencies, developers, and project funders to create more of the permanently rent-restricted multiple unit housing so urgently needed for the region's workforce now. This initiative will bring all community stakeholders, including King County, together to leverage their combined resources and capabilities, enabling us to get this housing over the line. We're strongly in favor of adopting this initiative.
As many of you may know, the Seattle Metro Chamber does a semi-annual public opinion research on what the top issues are for voters in the region. And in the last 4 years, you won't be surprised that housing affordability and access to housing has been in the top 3 consistently. We'll be releasing our next version in October here pretty soon, and I imagine we're going to see the same thing again. For us, quite simply, for large employers and small employers, we all understand the urgent need to build more housing. It greatly impacts our ability to attract and retain talent across King County. Our approach is simple. We need more housing for more people at more income levels in more places, and the Regional Workforce Housing Initiative can help by improving access to affordable housing close to job centers. We appreciate that King County leaders have long made affordable housing a top priority, and thank Councilmembers Zahilay and Dombowski for their vision and leadership today. Thank you.
Thank you again so much to our wonderful coalition. Like I mentioned, we have unions as part of our coalition, the Seattle Chamber, housing agencies, private developers, think tanks, council members, and so many more. Just to tell you a little bit more about the motion is a piece of legislation calling on King County to conduct a feasibility analysis and an implementation plan. And so a lot of the questions around how many units can be built with $1 billion of money, at what levels, what mix of income levels would make the math pencil to have us be able to collect enough revenue to pay off the debt. Those are all questions that would be answered in March when the motion calls for that implementation plan to be delivered by the King County Executive. The motion will be heard tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. at the Budget and Fiscal Management Committee. We encourage anybody listening to this who supports this initiative to call in, give public comment, share why it's important for us to build more housing for workers close to where they work. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you.